welcome back. It's Jen Ebolani, and we have with us today the wonderful Luisa Gaxiola. I'm so excited to have you here today. I wanted to bring Luisa onto the show. I've known her for the past 10, 12 years. She is a phenomenal wife, an amazing mother, and an entrepreneur. I wanted to talk to her today about how she started a business while wifing, while momming, and now adding to that, becoming a homeschool teacher for her children. So welcome, Luisa. So happy to have you here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me a little bit about you and how all of this came.
I'm Luisa Gaxiola, and I am born and raised in SoCal. I am a native, and I have been a part of the South Bay for the last 10, 12 years. I own a salon in Hermosa Beach. I have had that salon for 8 years now, which I'm really proud of. As you know, not a lot of businesses survive. And the pandemic, honestly, that was really hard. So yeah, I'm just, taking it day by day. And I'm a mom, I'm a homeschool mom, and a wife. So pretty busy, as we all are. All moms are.
So your eldest, how old is she?
She's 8.
So you started your business while you were pregnant?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So I opened the shop while I was pregnant with my eldest, and that was very challenging. But I mean, looking back to all that, I'm so proud of myself for having gone through all that. Even while pregnant, there's just no choice. Sometimes our children, they push us to do things that we just don't think we're capable of until someone else is on the line, So you're like, oh my gosh, I have to be there for this child, and I have to have a support system, and that could be financially too. So we were like, we have to do it. And if it wasn't even for us as a marriage, it was more for our children. So yeah, that was pretty hard to endure. But I'm so glad I did. I'm so glad. It's the best thing I've ever done, because I have a lot of freedom to even homeschool my kids now.
Yeah.
So it's very cool.
So how would you say that you started, or how did all of this begin? What made you want to have your own shop? How did you even get into the
That's a good one. Let me tell you why. In the industry of hair, in the industry of beauty, and I think a lot of people could agree who are in the industry, there is a high toxic environment because it's vain, it's beauty. A lot of people think they're rock stars. And I worked in a lot of salons and different ownership, and a lot of the times it was so good in the beginning, and then it went downhill with competition, with greed, with, oh, I can't share this formula. And it's just not where you feel like a lot of people don't blossom in an environment like that, because there's so much else to worry about. I swear, I say this in every interview I've had. The environment that you're in has everything to do with your success. So if your environment is toxic and there's competition and it's nasty, you're not going to grow there. There's no room to blossom there, because you're so busy with all this negativity that there is no room for you to blossom as a person, as a stylist, as a business owner, whether you're working for a salon as commission or you're independent. There's no room because you're so busy with this toxic environment. And my goal one of the main pushes was my daughter, but also I was tired of this environment. I was tired of being in a toxic. I was like, no, I want to make sure that my space is a space where people can blossom, because there's enough for everybody in the world.
Absolutely.
And when we have that mentality, honestly, everybody wins, and it's a freaking cool feeling.
Yeah.
But that was one of the reasons why I decided to go in, was because I wanted a different environment for myself and for other stylists, that I could provide a safe space, a comfortable space, a space where people could blossom.
Oh yeah. And then I know that, especially just even being in your shop, the other stylists who work with you, it's such a sisterhood. It's such a family.
Well, because when you can be an owner all day long.
Yeah.
But are you equal? Are you embracing others? Are you thinking, wow, this person here has something to offer on the table that I may not have? Because the truth is that no matter if you're an owner, you're not going to know it all. You're not. There's so many things that you can learn from others, whether you're an owner or not. That doesn't make you superior to anybody. That just means you took the higher risk, you know?
Yeah.
So definitely agree with that. We're very to a point where everybody feels like that is their space too, as it should be.
Yeah.
That's for them, you know?
Yeah. if you were to look at your business, what would be the core tenets that you tried to bring, or what were the core elements that you definitely wanted to have in running your business? And then the second question would be, how does that relate to you authentically?
Again, going back to the reason why I opened the salon was to have people feel good and be able to blossom in this space. So it was absolutely no drama at the salon was one of my biggest thing. Yeah. Again, with our industry comes a lot of that. Comes a lot of toxicity. It comes a lot of, again, just bad stuff. And I don't want to focus so much on that because that's not my goal, and I don't want to bash too many people. But I feel like one of the core tenets was that no drama, blossom, and work for yourself was one of the biggest things. It gives you a sense of power. And for me, I feel like I gain power from giving others power.
I love that.
And I think it really is such a trifecta of things where you're helping someone and that gives you power back. We help people help themselves, and that's super rewarding. Yeah. And I think if more people place their thoughts in that area where they think, you know what, I'm going to help this person out to feel better, then you would feel better. And it's almost a little selfish, but we don't consider that. We're like always like greedy and like, you know, it's so easy to go into that dark zone. So if we just put our mindset to that and we thought we're here to help others, then we gain more, honestly.
Absolutely.
Selfishly, but honestly.
And so what would you say if do you find that when drama does arise, or if there is a difference of opinions between stylists, how are you able to or even the people who are sitting in the chair with you? I know that when I go to the salon, you're almost like my therapist.
Right.
Like, I want to be able to talk to you about everything. And I'm sure that so many people find being in your chair the same way, because it is, like you said, a safe space. So what happens if someone comes in with that toxic negative energy, or they are saying things that maybe you don't necessarily agree with, or that are rubbing you the wrong way? How do you come back to yourself, or how do you come back to an area where you feel unaffected?
I feel like that's been a muscle I've been practicing the last 3 years very heavily. But it also comes down to listening. I think that we also, as a human race, forget how much we have in common with others. There's always a common base, always. Whether it be we're human, whether it be, you know, a sad story, like, oh, I can relate to that, or trauma, I can relate to that, or even food. There's always a common space. And because I'm in the service industry, I feel like the chair should be a place of relaxation, of safe space. And sometimes what I think at the moment does not matter, because it's service-based. You know, I am serving somebody. And of course, maybe I have a heavy opinion on that, but it doesn't matter to me at the moment, because I'm serving someone. And at the end of the day, more people need healing than hurting. More people need to be heard, and then that's it. And maybe I don't agree, and that's okay, but she was heard, you know?
Exactly.
So that's a muscle I've been really working on, and it's never-ending learning for me, even with so many people in my chair. So the contradictory thoughts, conversations, it's going to happen. I just feel like, I mean, sometimes it's just listening. That's my job. Just listen.
Yeah.
And I don't even have to say anything. You know, I could just be like, that's great. I'm sorry you feel that way, or, you know, it's comforting if they feel heard. Maybe their spouses aren't listening. Maybe their children aren't listening.
Yeah.
But I heard them.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have to agree. Right. I could just listen.
Exactly.
And I think we've forgotten how to do that.
I agree with that so much. And I think that the other thing is in recent time, I feel like people are so quick to label things that they don't agree with, or that they don't understand, that it's almost like easier to say, okay, well, since I don't agree with that, I'm going to dismiss you. But especially, like you said, in the line of service work, it's not what we're meant to be. But I also think that as a society, we need to be able to establish more honest connection and be able to see each other and understand each other. So that's beautiful.
Yeah, finding common ground. I think more people would be surprised once we instead of canceling people or Xing people out, you would find more common ground than you think.
Yeah.
You know?
Agreed. So tell me a little bit about transitioning into homeschooling, because she was in I guess, regular school.
Actually, no, we started off.
You started
off homeschool off the bat.
Okay.
I came across a client whose friend was homeschooling, and I got all the details, and I'm like, you know, I'm gonna try and see what I can do here. and went in, loved the program. We've been with the same teacher ever since. Not easy, it's challenging, but I think my favorite part of homeschooling, and it's all we know, so I don't have the contrast of public school or private school or regular school, I should say. But for my experience, what I love about homeschool is they teach you how to learn, not what to learn.
Yeah.
So you're learning how to learn, how to absorb. The material will always be there.
Right.
But sometimes we can't figure out how we learn as humans. And I can say, I being part of a public school system, it was true. There were times where I didn't know how to learn. Because you are thinking and comparing to like your 20-something classmates. Oh, well, they get the material much better than I do. And then there's all these phrases like, I'm just not that good at math, or I'm not that good at this, and then you have a crowd of this whole thing of them saying this and the deficits, right?
Yeah.
And homeschool is not that way. Homeschool is about how to learn. The material, here's the material. Oh, that's not the way you learn. Okay, let's switch it up. Let's do another curriculum. So that's what I like. I like the flexibility. And because of my business, I am able to have the luxury of time. And that is where the value is for me. Having had the business is the value of time. Not a lot of people have time to be with their kids. Not a lot of people have time to homeschool their children. So that is where I fall with the homeschool.
Yeah.
Again, I would lie if it was easy. It's hard, and it's definitely not the straightest line. And I don't know. A lot of people ask, how long do you think? I don't know. We'll take it every year, day by day, as we go. If she decides or he decides to want to go into a regular school, then so be it.
Traditional.
Traditional.
So if how old is your youngest right now?
He's 4.
And he's 4. So I guess in traditional schooling that would be considered
TK.
TK. Okay. So how is it teaching them? Like a lot of parents get discouraged because it's like, oh man, I have to teach my kid how to read and how to hold a pencil. Like,
right.
And I think that sometimes as moms, we don't give ourselves enough credit. Like I remember one time I read something where a mom was being made fun of by her son because her son had to teach her how to check her email. And she's like, yeah, but I taught you how to use a spoon.
Yeah.
Something as simple as that, where we forget our own magnificence and how we are able to help people, even in the most fundamental of situations.
Absolutely.
So right now working with Rocco and with Sibo, like teaching them those fundamentals, how has that been going?
It gets challenging for sure. And and I've realized how even as adults we are kids, and sometimes our teacher will say things, I'll tell her like, I'm having such a hard time. It's like, well, isn't it hard for you to learn new things? And I'm like, yes. And it's like, well, then it's the same for children. Yeah. It's like, okay, sorry I called. So it's the same thing, and of course it's challenging, but man, once you get that like first reading sentence, when they start identifying things, you're just like, oh, I did that, So that part, so rewarding.
Right.
Because we don't get to embrace that as parents when our kids are out in school. That's the teacher. The teacher lights up when they see that. So since I'm doing that, I get to embrace that. I get to see their development and their reading and how you're saying, like pointing the finger to each sentence. That stuff is awesome. Like that makes me want to go more and more because I'm like, oh my God, I'm doing something right, guys. Like, because it is honestly in the beginning, it was super intimidating. I questioned it. I was like, am I doing the right thing? It's going against every like grain you can think of. I had some people say like, are you sure? Shouldn't you want your children to have higher education and like all this stuff? And then pandemic happened. I was like, heh. But
you're like, well, now y'all got the teachers.
I was like, well, I got ahead. So I did have like criticism even from family, but I just kept going, and we'll keep going till the wheels fall off. And then if something shifts, then we can shift. That's another thing. As parents, it doesn't always have to be this way.
Right.
And we live in a society where everything is like, this is what it is. This is what society should do. This is, and there's no room for experiment as much, especially as parents. I think sometimes we get so stuck in that this is how it should be. This is what worked for Jane. Let's do what Jane did, But your son's not Jane or your daughter's not Jane. I know it sounds kind of unorthodox, but very like take it as it goes every year. How are we developing? How are we doing? Is this an option? Is this an option? And then we'll see if it goes till high school for both of them, great. If it doesn't, then great, right? But along the way, I'm learning, they're learning, and they're just, it's really nice.
Yeah. So how do you balance the time? Because you've got homeschooling, you've got a business, you've got coming home and then having to do the mom duties. Well, I shouldn't say duties, but like working in the household, there is so much. How do you keep yourself level?
So I read something recently, and it dawned on me. I was like, this is me. I don't think that we'll ever achieve work-life balance.
Yeah,
I think there's no such thing. I think we're just always going to be flexible, you know, and it's work-life flexibility.
I love it.
And there are times where you'll work till midnight, and there are times where you go to bed early, and there are times where the kids are going to eat till 9:30.
Yeah.
And it's just being flexible to what life is giving you. But work-life balance, to me personally, I don't know if I'll ever achieve it. And I think it's really stressful. It's really stressful to keep thinking that there is some sort of balance you have to achieve. And in the meantime, you're so stressed out about this that you're not really achieving anything. But if I go with it in a flexible manner where I'm like, this day is this day, this day is this day, then it's a little bit more easy to manage that way. So I think there's a work-life balance is not actually a normal goal, but work-life flexibility is.
I love that. And it also speaks to when you were speaking earlier about having understanding and being able to like look at a bigger picture instead of saying like, no, this is our time schedule, or this is our to-do list and we have to do all of these by this given time. When you give yourself the flexibility, being able to learn a specific way, or having to learn a specific way, I should say, and being able to be flexible and say, okay, well, what works best for you? Having that almost customization, it's nice.
Yeah.
It's understanding not only for the child who's learning, for the entrepreneur who's building a business, or the client who's sitting in your chair that you don't agree with. It's all of it comes down to understanding.
Right. And understanding your pace, understanding what you can give that day.
Yeah.
And who you can give to that day.
Right.
Because maybe that day you're like, oh, I crushed it on my goals for like my work.
Yeah.
But your kids are like, Mom, we're hungry. You know?
Right.
So it's like some days it's going to be for the kids, some days it's going to be for work, some days it's going to be for both, some days it's going to be for marriage. I don't know. I feel like work-life balance is stressful.
Yeah.
You know, and it's even with kids, you know, if you think about it, like they're going to school, then they're going to sports, they're doing all this stuff, and they're stressed. They get stressed over that too. I can't imagine it being easy for, you know, a young child. So in my world, I think flexibility is the way to go.
Yeah. We're going to take a quick second. When we come back, I want to talk to you about some of the challenges that you faced in getting your business started. So we're just going to take a quick little break and then we'll be right back.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Luisa Gaxiola, the owner of Peroxide Hair in Hermosa Beach, California. We've served our community for 8 years, specializing in custom color and cuts. If you'd like to reserve an appointment, visit us at peroxidehair.com. Follow us on Instagram, peroxide_hair, or my personal handle, _Luisa Gaxiola_.
Awesome. Welcome back. We wanted to talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you faced in starting your business, and maybe some of the adversities that you experienced growing up.
So when I was young, I was kind of a chaotic kid, and it was just a lot of misguidance, I want to say. And now that I'm an adult, quote unquote, I see my young self as just a lost, misguided child.
Okay.
Not that my parents had anything to do with it, as far as like, I don't feel like I was, you know, in a terrible home. Of course, every home has some sort of trouble, right? I think it was a lot of just misguidance. And being from a conservative Mexican home, you're dealing with restrictions and discipline where it's like almost irrational to be so strict, right? So I was the youngest of 5, and so I was the rebel. I wanted to go against every single grain that my 4 other siblings went through, and I wanted to break like any kind of rule. It was just like a goal of mine to do that. So in doing that, I found myself lost in like different environments. with the wrong crowd, with the wrong environment, not focusing on the right things as far as school or high school or anything. As soon as I hit 15, I was, with the wrong crowd. The rebels, the punkers, got all caught up in that. I ended up actually going to beauty school through a high school program.
Oh.
And I could have had my license earlier had I stayed intact with our program after school, but I was busy partying. So I did not finish that. And what I did do is I became part of my environment. I was a crazy kid, partying and drinking underage and smoking pot and, all of the things that you would never want your child to know. Please don't tell my kid. But I found myself in this environment, and in that found myself with partners who were toxic. As I was going through high school, hardly, but I was going through it eventually.
You were enrolled in.
Yeah, I was enrolled, but I wasn't going. And so my grades were bad. Everything was just kind of going downhill, really misguided. Had my mom I feel like now as a parent, had my mom had a little more communication, a little more safe space to be like, hey mom, like I can talk to you about this. Again, different generation. My parents are in their 70s. Mm-hmm. I am 33, the youngest of so many kids and blah, blah, blah. And with that being said, I ended up in the wrong crowd. I ended up doing the wrong things. And I ended up in a terrible relationship when I was 18 with an abusive partner. And that was like a huge turning point for me. That was like whoa, you need to stop. It was like God was telling me, or the universe, whoever they believe in, you have two routes now. You're either going to stay in this toxic environment, or you're going to blossom and you're going to get out of this and you're going to be a survivor. You're not going to be a victim of physical abuse, mm-hmm. right? And being so young and having had that such a hard decision to make, and also terrifying, because this person was incredibly violent, and I was in a point as an 18-year-old where I was dealing with this with my own, covering bruises, covering marks on my own, where I was like, I can't tell anybody. I'm so ashamed, because I was also the person before I would be like, why did this woman, why do they even allow, mm-hmm. like, you allowed it, it's just so judgy, right? Yeah. And then when it happened to me, and the manipulation that goes on with a toxic relationship, you're just like, you get caught off guard, where it's shameful, right? Mm-hmm. So I decided I was going to leave, and I, talked to law enforcement, all this stuff. And one of the things that one of the investigators that I talked about, because they can't press charges unless obviously I press charges. So I needed to have markings on me. I had to plan it out. And the person had no idea I was doing this behind closed doors, because I was terrified. And the one thing that this agent said to me, he's like, some women never make it out alive. So you need to figure out what you're going to do. And when he said that, that is like a huge turning point and I feel like I had 15 through 18, or I lived so hard that I felt like I grew up so much in those years. Mm-hmm. And when he said that, I was like, wow, like, this is terrifying. Like, you can't mess around anymore. Mm-hmm. So eventually I didn't press charges, but I slowly started leaving, because I was still sympathetic. I was so young and so innocent, to where I was like still feeling sorry for a person that was obviously violent. Mm-hmm. Eventually started slowly going away from that. Mm-hmm. And I promised to myself I would stop smoking, because I was smoking cigarettes and, just partying too much. I promised to myself that this was this turning point for me, where I needed to stop being a victim of my environment, or a victim of like whatever traumas I had as a kid, because we all have them. Mm-hmm. And we can be traumatized our whole life and be totally paralyzed by it, or we can use them to blossom. There's just two ways, right?
Yeah. I think that's really beautiful for you to say, because sometimes people I've encountered don't want to take responsibility for their mm-hmm. lives. And a lot of times they'll say, well, I'm a victim of circumstance, or, this is the environment that I grew up in. And it almost deflects all of that responsibility, and causes that almost victimized mentality, and I'm trying to do the best that I can, and yeah, everyone is trying to do the best that they can, but if it's honestly believing it and taking responsibility for your
word
life
change.
Yes,
word change is huge.
Beautiful.
Like I have a client who was a victim of same as me, like battered wife. I was a battered girlfriend, but she was a battered wife with 3 kids. And we went about kind of slowly talking about it, and then she opened up, and we were both connected in that way. And one thing she said that I was like, man, you go, girl. She's like, I am not a victim of domestic violence. I'm a survivor. Me and my children are survivors. And it's like wordplay.
Yeah.
Because it's like you're setting this intention to the universe that you are a survivor. You are not continuously a victim of this horrific moment in your life. And I think circumstances and people go through a lot of stuff that is heavy and understood and totally valid. But we still have so much life to live. Do we want to continuously be in a dark hole? Or do we want to see what this opportunity, which is unfair and dark, can bring to our life, right?
Yeah. I believe that, personally, I believe that people, when they accept responsibility for their life, and I'm not saying that like you can just magically change overnight. For some people, that can definitely happen. And if that's, I think that personal belief has a huge impact in addition to wordplay. Like the words that you use, like even the word survivor, while surviving is absolutely necessary, to take it one step further than that and to know that you can thrive even after the situation. You can not only just you can be the victim and then you can survive, but even more than that, like you said, there is so much life that's left. You can now thrive now that you've overcome that situation. And I think that when people take responsibility for their lives and say, this is not what I want, this is not how, and having that almost clarity of understanding what is available to them, and saying, my life, I want something more. I don't know necessarily what it is just yet, but I know what it's not. So let me go see what else there is, so I can find places where I can be responsible with my life and take it even further.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what about when you started your business? How would you say the challenges, knowing that you could overcome such horrendous circumstances coming through life, do you think that helped in any way to help you gain tenacity or to be able to survive going through?
Well, I feel what we gain, sorry to interrupt, but I feel like when we go through moments that way, we gain so much life. Yes. You know what I mean? Although it's, again, dark, unfortunate, and all this, and could be a death of a loved one, a death of a child, like all these moments that happen in our life that are dark, we gain life from that. As weird as that may sound, because at the moment it doesn't feel that way.
No. So
I felt like I matured immensely during this transition. So when it came down to being a business owner and putting my big girl pants on, I felt like I had lived so much life because due to all this darkness that I'd done and survived, and I was like, how you saying, now is like time to thrive. And you become a survivor. So even in spaces where you're like in the deep and your knees high in problems or in fear, you're like, well, look what I did here and I did it, so I could do this too. And so going to the business, again, same thing. My husband had just broken his leg. I was in a very toxic salon, and we had no choice. There was no income. I was the sole provider of my home.
And you're pregnant.
And I'm pregnant. My husband's broken. There's no way he's going to get any funds. As you know, it's so hard to get disability right away. So it was like I was pregnant, I was working, and my husband, thank God for him, he was constantly like, you can do it, you got this, you have that in you just don't know it. And I would always be feared. I'm like, oh my God, this is so scary. What if nobody comes? What if nobody opens the door? What if like I don't have anyone that follows me from there to here? And going back to my daughter, and then that struck where so these conversations of opening a salon had happened a lot. But it wasn't until we were at the pressure point and things like were really boiling up with like us only having one income, being in a toxic environment at another salon. And then having almost that moment where you're like, crap, we have a kid coming and we have nothing for it. Because she was not planned. It was a surprise.
A beautiful surprise.
Yeah, a beautiful surprise, which obviously we did want children. We're trying to wait a little bit. So it kind of led us to that pressure. You build diamonds out of pressure.
Right.
Same thing. Like, I think we are fear of pressure so much these days, and we are going constantly to comfort. And then, but pressure brings a lot of awesome stuff too.
Yeah. Pressure is where we build our strength. That's where we learn so much about ourselves.
Absolutely.
You mentioned that in those dark times that's where you gain so much life. It's not only life that we gain, it's life experiences. We learn so much about ourselves in that. And I think that when we go through hard times, sometimes people don't necessarily give themselves enough credit of how far they've come. And we're almost taught that pride, yes, it is. It can be a bad thing if it's in excess, but like to know that you're overcoming, to see your own personal worth, knowing that you have the strength to get through those things. You're learning not only you're cultivating your self-belief. You're being honest with yourself of what you're capable of achieving. I think that it's really important for people to understand, like, we've made it through, like the cliche of you've made it through 100% of your bad days. Like, yeah, we have. And you will show up for yourself every single day. And so while some people may not necessarily have a strong support system, but you can be your own personal support system.
Right.
You can believe in yourself. And that's why these challenges may be presenting themselves, because it's to be able to cultivate that trust in yourself so that you can then take that and be responsible. And how are you going to move forward from this? So those teachable moments, not only to kids, it's great to be able to share experiences, but to be able to teach ourselves that we can overcome these challenges.
Exactly.
Yeah. So now that the business is up and running, would you say that it's like, oh, now I've got it out of the way, like we're good?
No, actually, I face challenges to the day.
Okay.
Whether it be with finances, whether it be, you're learning how to manage your book, you're learning how to raise pricing, you want to provide a service, but you also have to, put food on the table.
Right, of course.
But you want to create a friend environment at the salon, but you also have to have your business mask on. I swear, it is never ending. Like, there's always so much to learn and so much to grow. Facing challenges never stops. And so, no, I don't think that it's just like, it's open. Actually, it's just getting started.
Right.
And it's never easy. Yeah. Nothing's ever easy. Communication, or, you love your work family so well, but then you also have to be like, okay, this is my business mask. This is what's happening, blah, 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 put it there. And I'm still learning so much. People is the hardest part. People is the most challenging part. I think that's why it can be so hard to be leaders, because we get so discouraged in that people world. Right now it's so common to be like, oh, I hate people, well, I love people.
Yeah.
And we should, because we need people. And if there's one thing we learned from the pandemic, is human connection is everything. We can have nothing, but human connection is also so important to survive. So
even people with different opinions of you.
Exactly.
Because that pressure, like being able to bounce ideas off each other and being able to communicate and understand, and having that space where you can share ideas and opinions, and it helps you to really define your own. Right. And
maybe it even changes ours, right? You're like, oh, I thought this the entire time. And now that, so-and-so came in, I'm like, I don't know. Kind of made me think again.
It's interesting. That actually, it goes back to when you were talking about learning styles of how children learn. I think as adults, sometimes we need a different opinion to show us, like, I have a friend who was also doing homeschooling, and she was trying to teach her son about, like, the U.S. presidents, something really mundane where most children in traditional schooling will go through and memorize all of them. Well, he wasn't learning them. So it was hard for him to accept the information. He wasn't digesting it. It just would not stick. And she was like, let's go play baseball in the backyard. And so she would throw him a pitch, and she would ask him a question. And if he hit it, she would say, no, you're not allowed to go yet. You have to tell me which president did this. And it was until he was doing something that felt good to him, that's when he was able to understand and capture the information.
And that's when we go back to the environment of my salon.
Yes.
Where you're, same thing. Like, you're doing what you love and you can grow.
Yeah.
So it's all kind of connected with child and adult and environment.
Yeah.
But it's so true. That same metaphor can be used for my salon, where I'm like, you're going to be doing something you love and you're thriving.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not even knowing, but you're growing. You're finding. I've seen the girls move into bigger homes.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen the girls have families, buy homes. Like, that fills me up.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not like, oh, look at her. She's like upping. No, it's like, hell yeah. You're doing this under this little roof.
Yeah.
You know, that's badass. So it's same with the little boy. He's like, look at him. He knows the president's name and he's kicking ass in baseball too.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I think it is all connected.
Definitely. So bringing back, you mentioned really quickly, they're talking about like when we deal with pricing, especially based in a service industry. Sometimes people will decrease their prices in order to get more business or whatnot. Especially in my line of work with coaching, a lot of times people are like, oh, well, so would you say that you price for the customer, or you price based off of knowing your worth?
It took me a while to learn this, but I've successfully transitioned myself to my worth. And you just live a happier life. You're not resentful with your client. You're not resentful to yourself. Mm-hmm. And the truth is that people who do value your work will come.
Yes.
Just kind of like open and they will come, or, build it, they would come.
Yeah.
I just made my own. And same thing. You're going to make that and people will come. And they'll appreciate your value there. They'll appreciate your worth, I should say. But it took me a while. And for a while I did feel like I needed to accommodate to the person individually. And I've taken classes and courses and read things on it for it to stick. Because it's such a hard thing. Because naturally we are people pleasers. Very rarely we come across a place where we're like, oh, I don't want to make them feel bad. There's so much accommodation to others. And doing it for ourselves is so selfish or greedy or capitalistic. And it's like, no, the truth is you're providing a service and there's an exchange.
An energetic exchange too.
Also.
Not just necessarily a financial exchange, because while your client, say for example, say a client of yours is like, but I'm just coming in for a haircut. Yeah, but that was, XYZ or X years of schooling and then going on from there to continuing education and additional classes that you had to take and practice that you had to do along the years.
Everything's tallied up to that. Everything's tallied up to the total. Your light bill. Yeah. Your water bill. Yeah. The shampoo with ounces, like literally to the T. Everything is, it has to be incorporated in that. So that at the end of the day, you're not resentful to yourself. Right. Because you're losing, then your business will never thrive. And I think we need to understand as providers of services that there's so much more we hold other than the labor, right? Yeah. So the labor is of value, but there's so much overhead over us too that we need to take care of. And like you said, learning and buying things, buying gear, taking the time off with our family to be here. Right. Like all these things comes into play. And so, yes, I have switched in the last few years to more value-based and worth-based versus trying to accommodate to each individual, because it's hard. Yeah. And I did become resentful, and it does get discouraging, and you just don't see your business grow that way. So, and also you have other salons around you that are, and not to say competition, but there's a price range, kind of like when you sell and buy homes, right? Right. You're like, oh, so-and-so just sold his home for that. So now my value goes up, right? Similar things, like why can't they do it? But us as individuals, we're like, oh God, I don't want, Cassie to get so upset. It's like, no, your worth is important. And you'll feel so much better for it at the end.
I also feel when you step in as a business owner, when you step into your worth and your value, you show up in a different way. Like when you show up in your light and you feel empowered and you feel like, look, I am not, this is what I am worth, and you stand firm in that light, it's a very, very different energy than somebody who's just like, okay, well, I'm going to say that, even though I don't have, I need to be a people pleaser, like you mentioned, and I'm just going to charge this, but like you said, becomes resentful and like it takes the light away from them instead of enhancing them and helping them to push further. So what would you say are tips, or how did you come to the point where you knew, like, okay, I'm now going to step into my light. I'm going to allow myself or give myself permission to be able to say, this is my worth. This is what I'm charging. And how did you find that space?
I think I've given my career the value it deserves. For a long time, hairdressers were like, they're hairdressers. Yeah. Anybody can go to school. Most people don't know you have to go through the state to get a state licensing. We have to go through state board. And you have to go through licensing and all that stuff. You can, go online and find our credentials on there. So a lot of people forget that there's a hustle to that. There's actual education to that. So once I think what happened is my focus went to that. And personally for me, what happened is experience. When I started to feel that muscle of experience grow, because that also comes with time, some things just have to be time.
Yeah.
And with experience comes the time that you've put in. And then I started to feel like, I think it's time.
Yeah.
As I'm growing the salon, as enhancing it, and you start realizing and putting numbers down too. When you start seeing your numbers, you're like, okay, I've invested this much in myself and my business. I think it's time.
Yeah.
And it's important to write those things down and understand, whether it be experiences, whether it be classes, whether it be your self-worth, understanding, this is where I'm at. This is where I'm at. So that you reward yourself as well for your hard work. Because especially being entrepreneurs, you don't have a boss telling you like, hey, you're getting a raise.
Yeah.
You can go years and not give yourself a raise because people pleasing.
Yeah.
Or because you feel, I'm just so modest or minimalistic. But in the long run, how are you going to feed your family? How are you going to be able to grow? How are you going to be able to provide better services? Again, going back to serving people, then you can also, maybe you're going to raise your prices, but then enhance your experience. So it doesn't feel like you're just enhancing, but you're just delivering the same thing.
Yeah.
Enhance the experience. What else can I offer? What else can I give that is not necessarily like an item? Myself. I can give more of myself, Yeah. So I feel like with time that happens where you realize, enhance this, enhance that, give more, but also now it's time to be real with numbers. Numbers just don't lie.
Yeah.
And then when you go back and you see your numbers and you're like, wow, I'm not growing every year. That's going to hurt.
Yeah.
And you're going to be resentful. So I think it's best to understand that you have to navigate it with rewarding yourself. As entrepreneurs, there is no boss telling you, hey, we got to raise these prices.
Yeah.
Hey, we have to, not raise these prices, give you a raise.
Yeah.
Or a bonus. There's no such thing. There is no such thing. So we have to, part of being an entrepreneur is you do it yourself.
Yeah.
How am I going to do this? How am I going to grow every year? Whether it be 100, whether it be 1,000, whether it be $2,000 every year. How are you going to grow? And that is hard because you have to be your own leader. And when you are going to work every day, you have a leader. You have someone telling you how to manage things, or you have to, produce this much. But when you're on your own, you're like, I don't know. Do I?
Yeah.
Corporations do it. Why can't we, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to take another quick break. And then when we come back, I want to talk about, now that you are in the growth phase, how are you going to be able to really enjoy it? And now that you've come past it, looking back, we'll talk about some of the pro tips that you have for people coming through this and on their journey on their way up.
Absolutely.
So we'll take a quick break and then we will be right back. Welcome back. We had just talked about going through some of the challenges that Luisa had faced in opening up her shop and really owning our worth and how people can move into that space of really understanding owning our light and our energy and really appreciating the value that we bring to the table and rightfully asking, almost demanding that. So I want, now that you've transitioned to the other side, where now you can see the fruits of your labor and all of the hard work and being able to overcome all those challenges. Let's talk a little bit about the successes that you found and some of the tips maybe that you want to share about how to get through that adversity.
I guess I'm gonna sound super interesting, I guess. I feel like success is individual, you know, and maybe success for someone is having a brand new car, or maybe for some people is not being able to live paycheck by paycheck, you know. So I find that my successes have been being able to be with my family more time, less time at work, more time, and physical work is what I mean, because as you know, as an entrepreneur, work is always, but less time of my physical labor and more time with my family. Those successes are amazing. And I think that for me, valuing items is second to valuing time. And time is really more important. We have so little time. You can always get a car. You can always get lease something. You can, you know, and although I obviously, the physical stuff is awesome. I love it. I'm very grateful for everything we have and we have earned and we have worked for. But success is, for me, it's more of having time. More time to do things. My family, more time for myself. Even time to, like, invent. I know it sounds...
To be creative.
To be creative.
Yeah.
And to feel like, wow, I have this moment and this luxury of, like, thinking, oh, maybe I should come up with a different business. Or that's a luxury, too.
Yeah.
Because not everybody has that opportunity or even that mindset that you haven't allowed permission to yourself to think outside your job, to think outside your salon, to think outside what have you, whichever way your work is. Not everybody goes home and like, oh, you know what, it'd be cool if we did this. People just are like on a spinning wheel, right? So even that is a success, mental success, where you're like, I'm not just enslaved to this hamster wheel, if you will. But success is, I think it's defined differently for everybody. For me, success motivates me some more too. Maybe I want more time with my family. Maybe I want to tweak things a little bit. Of course, again, back to the materialistic thing. I don't want to bash that because I do think those are milestones, right? You're like, oh, fruits of the labor here, and then work. And then it's like a moment to just be like, oh, wow, I got something. You know, I'm not just working to pay my bills.
Right.
I'm working for a bigger thing, whatever that may be, right?
And that can constantly evolve too.
Exactly.
And I think that when we reach one level of whatever we deem as success, like you said, it in turn opens more doors and it allows you even more opportunity. So while it's almost like you can only see so far ahead on a road. And then if you take a turn, now you get to see a whole different picture. All right, great. Now that it's like unlocking levels in a video game. Like
right.
You think that this destination is as far as you'd like to go until you get there and you realize that there's so much more.
Forever evolving.
And I think that it was beautiful of you to say that you're almost giving yourself permission, because sometimes people get caught up in the idea of having to only have success look one way. And we're shoved the idea of the American dream, but everybody dreams differently.
Exactly.
So cultivating the idea of success being what you want it to do and how you want it to feel. Even it doesn't have to necessarily be a destination. Success is a feeling,
right?
And so whenever we can do something that achieves that feeling, it unlocks so much more for us, and it creates so much more opportunity for us, because now we've been able to think outside the box, as you said, like for your business, even if it's just a matter of learning to diversify products or services. What else can you offer? As a mom, being a teacher, right? As a homeschool teacher. Thank you. Being a homeschool teacher, how else can I teach my child so that it allows them to learn? As a married wife, what else can we do for date nights to keep the spark and the love and the interest going? Right. It's the constant evolution of success. So if we want to feel love, how do we feel more love? If we want to feel, if we want to experience time freedom, what else can we do? If we need to increase our income to be able to access other things, if it's more trips, if it's more travel, if it's more, being able to have assistance to help you in the business, whatever it is, success does not have to be, I love that you said it doesn't have to be defined by one single thing. It can look different to everyone.
And it's that's what's cool. And that's why I feel like when people are envious or when people feel certain ways about other people's success, I always say, wait, hold the phone. That is their journey. Why are you hating, quote unquote, on someone else's journey when you have your own road to go on?
Right.
So when people are envious or hateful or, they don't want to see other people survive and thrive, I should say, no, you're doing it wrong. Your lane is your lane, and your destiny is your destiny. Your dream is your dream. And you're just telling the universe you don't want it either.
Yeah, exactly.
Honestly.
Yeah.
So
because it's literally giving energy to what you don't want, right? So because wherever our energy goes, wherever our thoughts go, that's what we're going to be able to materialize, manifest within our own life. That's the lifestyle that we are then creating. So if people waste time or waste energy, especially on hating on somebody else's successes, that just it almost says, well, okay, then that means you don't want that success.
Right, for yourself.
Right. So very interesting lesson there.
Yeah. Very eye-opening when you see that success is yours to have in your own way. So that's my answer to that, is success is different. But for me personally, time is the most thing that I feel the most successful in is time.
Yeah.
The things that I get to do.
Yeah.
And also, sometimes it's in people. Sometimes success is in people. Sometimes success is seeing other people succeed under your wing.
Oh.
That's super cool too.
Yeah.
Like going back to my girls at the salon, I see them and how they've grown and how I see them financially grow. I see their time. I see, they're not quote unquote struggling. They're thriving.
Yeah.
And that is successful too.
Yeah. So that adds to the impact. That adds to your reach of being able to do that, because it's almost as if you being successful paves the way for them to have the same opportunity. It's leading by example almost, and being able to say, like, look, you are, while you may own the shop, they are the owners of their own business, and this is what's available.
Right.
Part of what's available.
And it's so cool to see them reach for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's so cool. And not because of me, it's because it's their potential, right? So I'm like, that's so cool that just by offering a space, they're succeeding.
Yeah.
And then in the return, you feel like you've succeeded with your goal and your mission in your business. So dope.
Yeah. And turning that back even as an example to your children, you going out and getting your dreams. Because one of the things that I always, I don't want to say I hate, but like I disagree with the word choice of dream chasers, because chasing our dreams means that the dreams are trying to run away. Dreams are not trying, our dreams, our goals, they're not trying to run away from us. They're waiting for us to come get them. Yeah. They're available to us. We can access them as soon as we're ready, as soon as we've reached the level, so to speak, of what of mindset that we need to reach. Those dreams, those goals, they're available to us. So being able to go out and get your dreams and to manifest your goals, it teaches, and even like I love that when you were talking about work-life balance, knowing that some days are meant for some things that will be the priority, and some days something else will be the priority. Showing your kids that it's acceptable, that it's okay, that it's almost what's the word I'm looking for? It doesn't have to be judged. That you can focus on your business, you can focus on being a mom, you can focus on being a devoted wife. Everything is available to you. We don't have to pick or choose one specific label.
Right. And it's kind of like even when you bring a newborn home. You're bringing a newborn home to your life. Yeah. You're not bringing a newborn home to adjust to their schedule. They don't know anything. Right? Yeah. So you're like, how am I as an adult making this my boss? Yeah. It doesn't work. You're here to guide them. So I think it kind of correlates to that mentality as well. Yeah. With our kids. Like, it kind of goes on the rest of our lives. Oh, you don't get to mold me, son, daughter. We're guiding each other together. And you'll teach me how you're learning, and I'll teach you how I'm learning, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. Another step in that taking responsibility, right? Like, what are you going to be responsible for, and how are you going to lead your life in a way that helps you to actualize your dreams, and not have it be a result of your circumstances, and not allowing the blame, so to speak, to go on to something else. It's being able to go out and make things happen. Awesome.
Yeah.
So what would you say that you wanted to, if there was any one thing that you wanted people to know for themselves, or from all of your experience, what would you want, what would your message be to people? Is there anything specific that you would want them to know?
You know how there are seasons to things, and one season you're into like a certain show.
Yeah.
And then you got that vibe, Game of Thrones, and it's all dark and all this. And then there's
Broody.
a season, and then there's a season where you're watching, like, I don't know, another heartwarming Ted Lasso or whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't watch it. The same thing is with life, I think. And I think my message right now, and could change later.
Absolutely.
Is manifesting. It's prayer. And I'm very spiritual, as you know.
Yeah.
So that is my newest, I could say, obsession, you could say, is manifesting.
Okay.
Because with writing things down, writing intentions down, it comes true.
Yeah.
And it's not about, I don't know, it's not human. You know what I mean? Like, the more that I do it, the more I realize that it's not human. It is spiritual. And so when you think about those two things and you set up the intention, you manifest, then I feel that my message now is be spiritual, be intentional. Whatever God you choose to pray to, whatever thing, just set it out, Set it out, and whatever goals, whatever dreams, like, those things will come. Yeah. Those opportunities will come. We have to be super intuitive. We have to pay attention to the signs. We have to pay attention to what's around us. We live in such a matter-of-fact world that when it comes down to manifesting, when it comes down to spirituality, we dodge it. Because everything is either technology, matter of fact, or that's not true, that's not what Google says. I'm sorry, but those things are human things.
Yes.
Some of the things that we are not human things. They're spiritual things. Yeah. So my message for people now, and especially people who want to go into entrepreneurship, is manifest it. Tell the universe what you want in, like, specific words.
Yeah.
I want, say, for example, I want a shop that has hardwood floors and this type of thing, and set it up and, like, put it out. And it's not going to be overnight, because nothing happens overnight. I mean, a baby takes 9 months to make, right?
Right.
Or I should say you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Not me. But, it's, to cook in there, it takes 9 months. So everything takes time. But it's that constant muscle of constantly manifesting, and that manifestation muscle and that spiritual muscle, we're slowly pushing away from it because we want facts. We want things that are true. And some things are not supposed to be.
And instant gratification.
So my message to people now is set it up.
Yeah.
Write it down.
I love that you said be intentional.
Yeah.
With Soul Loved, Soul Loved creates everything with intention. Oh, actually, with that, I wanted to, this is on behalf of Soul Love. I wanted to give this to you.
Aww.
This is a bracelet called Tenacity, and the mantra behind it is move. I've got this. And it's really about owning your own power, having that drive, that passion, and fueling all that. And I'll just read this to you real quickly. It says, imagine having a coach with you at all times. The intention of this bracelet is to keep you on track, to encourage you, to cheer you on. African bloodstone, which is this one right here, it lifts you up when you're tired, restoring you mentally, emotionally, and physically to an I can and I will state. The smoky quartz, which is this one right here, also known as the Stone of Power, dispels any negative thoughts while bringing stability and strength and increasing your focus. Face any challenge head on, and know that you've got the ability to persevere. You have the tenacity to get through it and live your purpose. So this is for you.
And I love orange, so
yay, exactly.
Yay,
hey,
me.
it works.
Yes, thank you.
The information.
I love that. This is my first time seeing your product, and it's really cute.
Oh, thank you.
I love that. It's so cute.
Yeah, so I think that it's beautiful that you are sharing this message. Thank you so much for being here today and sharing part of your story. I'm sure that as new entrepreneurs or as moms, even as spouses, we have so much that we need to be able to share with each other. And I love that you brought the aspect of understanding and of just being patient and being not having to stress over the work-life balance. That was beautiful. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
I love to hear myself talk, so I'll be happy to come back anytime you want me to.
Awesome.
But also thank you for listening to my story and being interested in what I had to say.
Of course.
So I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for joining us. We will be back next week, and we'll continue the conversation based around growth, self-love, and being able to actualize your dreams. So thank you so much, and we will see you soon. Take care.